Tonight's discussion is Book Lovers by Emily Henry. Okay, tonight is Book Lovers. And we have a few new additions. So does everybody just want to introduce yourselves quickly so we get to know everyone? You know me, I'm Michelle. We started this book club about 1.5 years ago. Some of you have joined almost all of them. Some are new, so welcome. And I'll start with Christy because you were the first one to sign on.
Sorry, I'm at my daughter's volleyball. Hi, I'm Christy. I just recently started with Michelle's book club. I've loved all the picks so far. I knew Michelle at FIU and kind of I've kept in contact through social media, and I absolutely loved the book. This is actually one of my favorites. I loved it. It was awesome. I don't know what it's like a little bit of Hallmark, a little bit of spice. I really liked it. It was a great story. I found myself smiling almost the entire time. So it was awesome. Yeah.
And I felt like I was reading a Hallmark movie. And though a lot of you are connected through me, there are people that I do not know at all. So just introduce yourselves. Audria, you're next.
Hi, I'm Audria. I joined earlier, or either at the end of last year or early this year. So this is my 3rd or 4th book club that I've come to, and I really enjoyed it. I actually don't know Michelle in real life. I feel like we've met before. I forget that we haven't met in real life, but
No.
we know each other through mutual people. But yeah, it's a lot of fun, and I enjoyed this book, and excited to hear what everybody thinks about it.
Funny story, I had got my last job through Audria because she posted it through a mutual friend, but we don't really know each other.
Yeah.
Michelle, you're next. And again, thanks to Michelle for the idea for tomorrow's summer social.
Hi. So I'm driving now, so that's off my camera. But I'm sorry, Michelle, what was it? Did I think the book, or is it an introduction to myself? Or?
Just introduce yourself.
Okay. Yeah.
Please
so
drive
I'm Michelle.
carefully.
I have, don't worry. I've known Michelle for many years now. We went to college together, and we were in a book club together for many years. And then that book club, after many marriages, many children, that book club kind of faded away. And then she started this one, and I love reading. So I'm like, oh yeah, I'm joining your book club for sure. So then we kind of restarted our love of reading and books, and I'm very thankful for that.
Hopefully we can revive the other one. Belissa are you in Miami right now, or are you back home?
I'm back in Denver. Hi, I'm Belissa. I met Michelle through a common friend who actually was on the last one, right, Michelle?
Yeah.
She was on the last book club session, but I guess I don't know, she's going to be on this one. So we met through her, and it's been, I don't know, feels like so long ago. I don't know how many years ago that was, but when I saw on social that Michelle was starting a book club, I was looking for something. I'm a big reader, but I think with COVID and everything going on, sometimes you just get in a slump, and I'm just I needed to really shake it up and start having motivation to start reading again. So this was the perfect way to do that. I am based in Denver, like Michelle said, even though I go to Miami all the time. I moved a little bit under 1 year ago, and I still go for work and for, just personal reasons. A lot of my family members are there, friends. So yeah, and I love the book as well. I thought it was such a good summer read. Interesting, fun, a little spice, but definitely a good read.
Vero.
Hi, my name is Veronica. This is my first time here. I've known Michelle for a few years now, though I don't think I've seen you in person since before the pandemic. We met at a work event, at a press trip. And as soon as I saw, I think it was a month ago when she posted the cover of the book, I had just finished reading it the day before. So I was like, yes, please have me. I need to talk to someone about this book. So I'm super excited to be here.
Vero actually messaged me. She's like, I'm trying to get people to read it because I need people to talk about it with. Sierra's joined us for all of them.
I've come, yeah, I was at the first one. I come like when I can. I'm an accountant, so it's like hard for me to read during tax season. But I always like mark down the choices and I try to get to them at some point. I love Emily Henry books. Like this one's already on my list. I just got back from Denver, by the way. I went to a couple shows at Red Rocks, got back last week.
Nice.
But yeah, I love reading. I love book clubs. I also like when I read a good book, I like hunt around for people that have read it and I like threaten people to read books that I've been reading and stuff like that. So I'm very grateful for the book club and the community.
Thanks for joining us. And Sierra's one of the ones I don't know in person.
Yeah, we've never met in person. That's true. I was a friend of a friend.
Yes.
But now we're virtual friends.
Yes. Diana, welcome. I believe this is your first one.
It is, and I have no clue how I found you guys.
It's okay, but I'm glad you did.
I am too. I'm actually from New Jersey, but I'm in South Carolina for the summer, like kind of visiting my parents. So huge book like reader. I read like 2 to 3 books a week. And I think someone else just mentioned like I go crazy after I'm done because I want to talk about the book. And I kind of immediately need to, or if I don't take notes, I kind of forget about it. So I do my little like Goodreads research. I look for like reader questions and answers. I love this book. I just thought it was such a like relief for everything that's kind of going on in the world today. It just felt like a nice little reprieve. So yeah, so I'm excited to be here and meet everyone. Where are you all based out of? Are you all in Miami?
I'm in Miami, so since a few people are connected through me, a lot are in Miami, but we have people join us that are in Tampa. Melissa's in Denver, right? Denver. So we do have people that chime in and out for different books that are not located in Miami, but for the majority, most are right now.
All right, cool. Well,
But you can, keep joining us. It doesn't matter that you're not in Miami.
I will. Thank you.
Christy, I see you driving, but be careful. Do you want to introduce yourself? Can you while you're driving?
Sure. Hi, I'm Tina. I know Michelle from high school, actually, not college. I don't know if anybody else is on here from Lourdes, but anyways, I love reading, love that you've done this, and love supporting friends. So I have lots of fun chiming into, I think, almost all of them. I think I've only missed maybe 1 or 2 at most. And this book was super fun, great beach read kind of thing. I was like, one of those, just had to finish it, keep going. And so thanks for that. Awesome. So yes, I'm driving home from, I think, Michelle. I think I saw her if she's at the running camp too. That's where
oh my God. Yes. I'm driving home from running camp. Were you at Tampa?
And you know what?
Tropical?
Yes, and it's because I saw you were wearing the shirt that I guess from one of the other book club things, right?
Yes, yes.
That was from our first book club.
The lies that bind. Look.
Yes.
See?
So,
the lies that bind.
So I saw you from far away and I was like, she's probably on the book club.
You guys don't know each other in person, right?
No, never met her.
Tina, if you come tomorrow, you can meet Michelle in person.
How funny. Cool.
And so that t-shirt is from our first book club with Emily Henry. For those of you who are new, sometimes the authors join us for the discussion, and Emily actually sent us a bunch of t-shirts and like pins and bookmarkers and stuff to send to I think it was like the first 20 people that joined the book club. So that's what that's from. Ileana, hi. Ileana's also somebody I do not know in real life, but we've become virtual friends.
How are you? Yes, I'm Ileana. I live in Miami, and I joined the book club because for years, my friend Lydia had been telling me that I should join this virtual book club. And I happened to be part of an in-person book club. And at that point, I thought, I can't handle 2. That's way too much. But this year I said, one of my goals for 2020 is that I'm going to read more than 20 books this year. And so I figured that I could easily meet my challenge by joining you guys. And I absolutely love the fact that Michelle is able to bring in so many authors. I find that quite impressive and amazing, and I'm loving it so far.
Thanks for joining us. Lydia was supposed to join us today, but she's out sick.
Yeah.
And we actually have a few more people who read with us, but they are luckily on vacation on the beach. They might be joining us. So if you see people pop in, it's because of that. Okay, so we'll start. We don't have an author tonight, and we don't have an author for the next one, but we do have an author for our November read. So we did ask, but they were busy. Okay, so who wants to start with what did you like most about this book?
Oh, I can tell you. I really liked her style of writing. Like, I don't know what it was about it that I really related to her, like just real life words, I guess it was, you know, but I enjoyed her style of writing. I enjoyed the characters so much that I went out and I bought another book of hers, and I had never really even heard of her. So that's what I liked about it.
Which one did you get?
The beach, something
Beach
about
read?
the beach.
That's the best one.
Is it? Okay, good. I'm glad. I haven't started it yet, but that's the one that I got.
Anybody else?
Well, I'll jump in. I'm a hopeless romantic, and I loved the idea that as I was reading the book, I felt the tension and the chemistry between these two characters. And I really wanted for something to blossom, but I kept thinking, you know, it's too good to be true. There's going to be a twist. I know it. So it was really satisfying to just read something that naturally led to the two of them falling in love. And I thought that was really nice and enjoyable.
For me, I felt like I was reading a Hallmark movie. And when you said that you didn't know if they were going to get together, I watch Hallmark movies with my 9-year-old niece. She loves them, and I feel like they're safe enough where nothing happens but a kiss. And it reminded me of her because she'll tell me in the middle of the Hallmark movies, whenever they get in a fight and they break up, she's like, that's it. But then that's the part after where they get together. And that's how I found this book, like the big tension. And then I was waiting for that moment when they get back together.
Yes, for sure.
I mean, I loved how she like flips the trope, like, and that's like the theme of the whole book is like, oh, big city girl, and like they ultimately do prefer the city, like the two of them together, you know what I mean? And then I always love when authors like, it's also like a love letter to book lovers too, obviously, you know, I always like that too, so it's nice. And like the bookstore, the quaint little bookstore in a small town is like so nice too. It's like a little
one of the girls in the book club is not done reading it, but she told me that she liked the little references to a man called Av. I have not read that, so I didn't pick up on the references, but anybody want to share of that if you did notice? Anybody know? Has anyone read A Man Called Av?
I've read his other books, which he wrote Beartown.
Yeah.
He has like, that's like a trilogy. The last one's coming out. I cannot recommend Beartown enough. And then we read Anxious People when that came out too, but I haven't read that. That's like, I think his first or most well-known is Ove.
She said there were like little references to it throughout the story. I have not read it, so I didn't pick up on that.
I haven't either. I didn't even know that.
I read it. I don't remember, to be honest, from the story. I know that maybe, I don't know. That's interesting. I kind of have to go back and reread it, but I've also read that like a long time ago.
Yeah.
So I know it was kind of like A Man Called, and there's actually a movie about it too. I think it's actually pretty cute, but it's very depressing. It's a very depressing book and story.
That book was made into a movie. I didn't know that.
It is. It's like a really old, like, I think it's actually like translated. I think there's like subtitles in it. Yeah. So if you,
I think they're doing one in the US, a new one.
Oh, cool.
Because I follow the author on Instagram.
Oh,
yeah.
I think
but all the like the Beartown and Anxious People were made into like mini series, but in Sweden, like he's Swedish and he's like the Stephen King of Sweden. So those were all mini series. I'm sure, I guess probably was too. And they're like slowly gonna make the stuff over here. Yeah. Put that on your list. We can do it in a couple months.
Anybody else want to share what they like most about the book?
I'm going to go with like kind of what Sierra said too. I loved the whole like book lovers aspect of it. I love the bookstore. I don't know. I love reading books about books. So, and again, I think the trope was kind of an interesting, like it didn't feel super cheesy to me, like even though it was, but it didn't feel like it. It almost felt like believable. Like it wasn't like I was rolling my eyes going, oh God. It was actually kind of cute. Like it was a really nice light read. I liked it.
Yeah. It
I
was
like
just, oh, sorry,
sorry.
go on, Sierra.
I like that they both admired like each other's strengths, you know, like he wasn't threatened by her being this like strong, accomplished woman, and she's like in awe of like his career achievements also. Like I feel like that's like a theme for most of Emily's books, is these like strong career driven women, and the guys that they end up with are supportive of that, which is not, she's not like a damsel in distress kind of thing.
Which is always good to read.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting that even though it was like a love story and there was like this, you know, kind of things that to the earlier point that could have seemed cheesy but weren't, but there was also like them dealing with all this emotional baggage, like from their family dynamics, you know, her on her end, like having to have dealt with her mom's passing and then having to kind of grow up fast and step into that caregiver role with her, you know, younger sister, and then him kind of having all these other hangups, like, you know, that everybody usually has when it comes to family dynamics. So I thought that was interesting how the author weaved it into the story, and so it kind of gave them more depth, and also the story that would have normally been like, oh, this is so like cheesy, it gave it more depth in many ways.
It's a good point. Which brings me to one of our questions. How do you think their family background impacted the way they both went into the relationship? Anyone? Nobody? For me, I think she was hesitant because she was so used to like being the savior and like the one who took care of everybody, that she didn't know how to like give up taking care of her family full time to let herself fall into it.
Yeah, I think they both don't prioritize themselves. Like she didn't prioritize herself, he doesn't prioritize. So it was like kind of like that was the barrier, you know, and at the end it felt like that impossible love, like when they were saying goodbye, that she was gonna, you know, go back to the city and he was gonna stay in the small town to help his family. It was like, no, like, you know, like I was like, oh, why? I mean, you know, obviously like I hadn't gotten to the end, but I'm like, this cannot be it because this is not good. So yeah.
What did you all think about the love story between Nora and Libby, and also the love story between Nora and Charles? I personally really liked the sister love story. Not love story, but you know what I mean, relationship story.
I like them both. I think a lot of what I liked with Nora and Charles, like I liked their dialogue a lot, and I liked that they were different enough, but like they were like enemies, but not really. So it was believable when they got together. Like I think there's a fine line to make it believable of like, wow, these people really hate each other, and how could there be something between them? But it was like, I thought it was perfect, their dynamic, that they were like sort of rivals, but you didn't really feel like true, you know, hatred or anything between them. So it was really believable when they got together. It was more of like a competitive thing that I really enjoyed. And their banter was like, I was laughing out loud throughout a lot of it.
Their banter was believable.
To me, yeah, that's what I like most about Emily Henry's books, is like I feel like the writing is like I would call it smut, but like elevated. Like it's still like got some literary heft. I think her like character interactions, if you've read her other books too, and if you haven't, like I highly recommend Beach Read and The People We Meet on Vacation. I just think she's like she does this genre very well. Like it doesn't like belittle it, I would say, because like it's not like a Fabio on the cover romance, you know.
Yeah.
It's like a little better than that, in my opinion.
But it still has some of those fun scenes. I don't know if it was somebody on here or someone else that was like messaging me while we're reading it, and I was like, the lake scene, I love this lake scene.
So cute. It's so cute.
Was it you, Adria? Yes, because I see you laughing.
I loved the lake scene. It was, and it was good because it's, you know, it's easy to go really cheesy in these, like everybody has mentioned, it felt very much like a Hallmark movie, but it didn't feel like I was rolling my eyes like, oh, this
Yeah.
will never happen. It was good.
Right.
That scene's great.
It's like I would want to walk into these books, whereas like the cheesier romances, I'm like, please stay away.
Yeah.
I think
I
a
liked
part
the-
of it. Oh, sorry, no. Who did I interrupt? I was gonna say that I think a part of why, even though it's cheesy, but it doesn't feel as cheesy, is that the character Nora recognizes how cheesy everything that is happening around her is, and she's aware, and she calls it out. So she's like, "Oh my God, now we're going to a small town. Are we gonna, you know?" And I think by calling it out, it's very easy to relate to her because what everyone said. This feels like a Hallmark movie, but when you're watching a Hallmark movie, there's a part of you that it feels a little bit above it. You're like, oh. But when the character in the story is saying like, "Oh my God, this is absurd," then you're like, okay, yes, she's a human. She's a person. She has like this kind of feeling that if one of us were dropped into a situation like that, we would be like, am I in a movie? And she points it out, and that makes her very believable.
Yeah. Go, Tina, were you gonna say something?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Well, I was just gonna say that that along that same line, that I feel like she the reason why it feels good as like a Hallmark movie or whatever is that I feel like they didn't do the cheesy like, he's cheating on me, is he cheating on me, like the ex-fiance, like that was very like there was not this weird cheating thing, that always comes up in these things of potential whatever. So it felt like the conflict was just like realistic, like it wasn't overdone, I thought. So I think that's why it was like very believable. So it was nice to like watch it felt realistic, but still sweet. And sorry, my kids are listening.
Nora reads the last page of a book first. Libby likes going in knowing as little as possible. How do you guys all prefer to read?
I'm team know as little as possible. Sometimes I don't even read like if somebody recommends it, I don't even read the synopsis. Sometimes.
Really?
I like ask like what it's about, but my best friend recommended these like fantasy books, and it's a series, and it is like literally the last thing I would ever read. And I was like, I devoured them. So I
Which
think
one?
like A Court of Thorns and Roses, Sarah
Oh,
Moss. They're like all over Instagram. I was like, that is absolutely not, I'm not going to read it. And I nobody can believe it. Like my mom, my sister, like, I can't believe you're reading these books. Cause I would my sister is so into that stuff, and I'd make fun of her. Yeah. And I like devoured them. So like, I think the less you know, the better. You can't like have an opinion that way. That's my opinion though.
I would hate to read the last page. Like, and
Oh,
what's
yeah.
happening.
Yeah.
I won't go read the last page, but I have to, like, when I'm excited about a scene or something, I literally like cover the page, because if not, like my eye jumps to like the end of it to see if something happened. It's so stupid, but I do that all the time. So I literally like cover the page.
Did you cover the page on the lake scene?
Yes, I always do that. Does anybody else do that, or am I
I
crazy?
do that. I'll like subconsciously skip forward and I get mad.
Yeah, I don't like to read the last page because I like to be able to read the whole thing, but I do this thing, there's in some books, sometimes it goes a little slower. And if you like the book and you're like, okay, this part is really slow. So like, I literally will be like looking like at the page ahead and then force myself to read the rest. But yeah, that I'll do sometimes, but it has to be a book that kind of dips a little bit and then picks up again. And so I get a little bit like impatient.
I do read the synopsis. I hate going in without an idea of what's happening, but that's it. If anything, if it's an author I don't know and it's like a random book I'm picking up at the bookstore, I'll like skim to see if I can handle the writing, or if it's not like too cheesy, or if they can actually write well, and that's about it. Anybody else?
I actually I
no.
actually do I'll listen to like a lot of book podcasts and stuff to get my recommendations. So I really do like a synopsis. I'm not good at Like I'm very, if I don't like a book after, you know, a certain amount of pages, I will give up on it. So I do like a good like synopsis, and I feel like I kind of know myself and I know what I'll like and I won't like, but I do definitely a lot of research before reading because I want to enjoy it.
I love
Yeah, me
listening.
too. I like to read like the reviews and the synopsis because then I'm like, what if I don't like it and I wasted my time, or I need to know about it for sure.
I like vet the reviews. Like I'll look at like how many total. Like if a book only has like 5,000 reviews on Amazon or Goodreads, like that's not enough. Like I want to have a lot of reviews, then I look at the amount, but I'm not gonna like read specifics because a lot of them have spoilers.
Yes. Okay, since this book is all about book lovers, what is the book that made you fall in love or fall in love again with reading?
Beartown by Frederick Bachman. Read it. It's so good.
Yeah,
It'll
I'm
make
gonna
you
have to
feel-
look that up.
Is that the first one
Beartown.
in the series?
Yeah, it's like about a small town with a hockey team, but like even if you're not into hockey, like hockey could be anything. It could be football, it could be a dance team, a cheerleading squad. Like I made my mom read it. My mom was like, "Oh, I don't like hockey, I don't like sports," but like it's about the people in the town, really. So that's my recommendation.
I think for me, the one I read, I've always loved reading, but I think for me this year, the one I read that made me fall in love again was The Four Winds by Kristen Hanna. I just felt like it was so, and it's not at all something that I normally gravitate toward. I've been trying to read more historical fiction because I was on a big thriller kick for a long time, and I'm kind of getting tired of that. But it's so well written. The story, I was trying to describe it to somebody and I was like, I can't even do it justice. It's just the way that it's written and some of the prose, it made me like wish I could write like that. It was awesome. She's great. So I'm really excited to read more of her.
It's good to hear because I've seen that book have like mixed reviews on like book Instagram pages.
I thought it was so good. And like if the premise of it, it's just like, oh, this woman who's like moving out west with her family during the Dust Bowl era. Like it sounds like horrible, but it's good. And I found myself like staying up to read it, and that doesn't happen a lot.
Anybody else?
I can share mine. I feel it's hokey, but I mean, I've always loved reading, but one of the books that stands out in my mind, it's a little old, but it's The Art of Racing in the Rain. I thought it was such a beautiful story, the way at the end, that whole connection to Enzo. I thought that was wonderful. And one that I really like as well is Winter Garden. I don't remember which author wrote it, but it was such a beautifully written Russian story, which is a type of literature that I don't normally gravitate towards, but I'm in another book club, as I said, and it was one of the picks. And so I went, I don't like to read the reviews and I don't like to read the synopsis because if I get turned off by that, then I won't go through with it and I have to read it. So I figure if somebody picked it, let me just go in with an open mind. It was such a beautifully written story, and it was in the context of sibling love and how the family bonds can help people, overcome adversity. It was phenomenal. I would highly recommend that if you haven't read it. And I'll look up the author and I'll write it in the chat.
Diana just put it, she said it was Kristen Hanna.
There it is. That's it. Yes. Yes.
Michelle, are you writing all of these books down? Because I've already lost track, but I want to look them all up. I need a list of all of these books.
No, but I can if you want.
Yeah, or maybe we can write it in the chat, like the name of the books, and then we have the list there.
So for me, it's also a Kristen Hanna book, The Nightingale. And I've read Four Winds and I read The Winter Garden, which I highly recommend as well. And what I see from Kristen Hanna, she does a lot of historical fiction, which for me I love. It's my favorite genre. And The Nightingale is another sister story taking place during World War II. And my sister-in-law recommended that to me a few years ago. And after that, it just picked up like my reading, my love for reading again.
I love historical fiction and I've never heard of this author, so I'm going to look her up for sure. That's
Kristen
awesome.
Hanna?
Yeah, I've never read anything from her.
She's very popular. I haven't read much from her. Anybody else? Anybody have like trouble reading through COVID and then one book switched it for you?
Yes, oh my God, I love reading. I would read all the time. Then I stopped reading for many years when my kids were little. Then I started again, but then COVID happened. I didn't pick up a book. And then actually the first book that I read after COVID, Michelle, was the COVID book. What was the name of that book?
That book was really good. Wish You
That
Were
was
Here
that's the one. That's
by
the
Jodi
one.
Picoult.
Wish You Were Here. And then I finally was able to read that one, and I read through it, which it was about COVID. So I'm like, I don't know if I'm ready for this, but it was fantastic. And then I just started reading again because of that one.
That book was so good, and it was like our longest book club discussion.
That one surprised me. Oh, sorry, my dog is interested in joining book club. That one surprised me the most. My reading taste, I think, shifted during COVID more. Like I used to read thrillers and dark murdery books, and now I try to read lighter stuff like Book Lovers and apparently fantasy books.
Okay, back to Book Lovers. Charlie initially set out to write and wound up editing. Nora wanted to edit and became an agent instead. Have you ever pursued something that led you in a different direction? Go, who wants to share?
I'm originally a lawyer, and I
Really?
practiced law. Yes.
I didn't know that. She is like an awesome publicist.
And I practiced law for like 5 years, and then one day I had a moment. I mean, it was a series of moments, but then I ended up doing PR, and I've done PR for the last 15 years. And
You're
it
good at
it wasn't a big moment where I was like, I'm gonna change my life. Is you start taking small steps, and then you look back and you realize you're in a completely different place from where you started. So I think that's true for a lot of people. I think very few people end up being what they thought they were going to be. So I found that very relatable.
I wanted to write for women's magazines. I ended up in nonprofit, and it wasn't my thing. And then did travel writing, which I love, but kind of got burned out from it through COVID. And now I don't know where I'll end up next. I'm like I still want to write, but I don't know where to go. Anybody else?
I was doing a master's in communications at FIU while I was working for a big company doing like internal communications. And then one day, one of the executives said, we need your help with a project at the foundation. And, do you mind helping us for a short period of time? I said, sure, of course. So I helped them. And from that small little project that I ended up working on, I stayed working for that foundation from that point on for 6 years of my time at that company. And then that launched me into just a career in philanthropy and nonprofit work and all that. So wasn't expected. It was something I loved. And looking back, when you look back at your life and the things you do and you gravitate towards, then it makes sense. Like you're like, oh, okay, I could see how this ended up being the way it did. But in the moment, it was kind of like unexpected. So yeah.
I had a little bit of a similar experience. I was in sales of jewelry, and I would travel with Italian jewelry, selling to jewelry stores in the Southeast and the Caribbean. And then I got married, and I didn't want to travel as much. So I thought I just have to get myself a job where I can stay local. And the University of Miami had a posting in a development office, and I didn't know what development was, but I figured it's a job that might be interesting. Let me apply. Let me just do something. I got the job. I started out as the administrator to the office, and I learned everything that had to do with development from the back end. And little by little, I started making my move into the development side, and now I'm the head of fundraising for an I Institute. So, and never would I have known what development and fundraising was, what it impacted. But as I look back now, I feel fundraising is sales, and I love what I do. I'm so fortunate to have landed where I'm at. And if somebody had asked me where you want to end up in your career, I never would have picked this because I didn't even know it existed.
That's the part I didn't like about the nonprofit. I worked for March of Dimes for like 7 or 8 years. I liked the communications aspect of it, like getting the things out on the news and doing the writing. I hated the asking for money part.
I love it. I think it's so exciting. I love it.
I had sort of a similar experience. I went to school to be a journalist and started out travel writing. and got burnt out after a couple of years doing that. Then I went into advertising because I wanted to make more money at that point. So I became a copywriter, and then I was probably a copywriter for 7 or 8 years and got an opportunity to become a grant writer, which I had no idea about. But I was working at Miami-Dade College, and a colleague was like, you should apply for this job writing grants. And I was like, the same. I was like, I'm not for like asking for money. I'm good like on the, but she was like, it's very much like marketing. You know, I think you'd be really, really good at it. So I looked into it and I applied. I got that job, and now I've been a grant writer for like 3 years. I'm with the Frost Science Museum now, doing fundraising for them, and I love it. I feel like it gives me like a tangible, like you get a grant and it's an award and it's like a tangible result from something that you wrote, versus marketing. You're just sort of putting it out into the ether and like hoping people see, you know, your headlines and stuff. So it's been super rewarding and completely not something I thought I would like or have success in. So sometimes you end up where you don't think you will be.
Audrea and I came from the same company and both got burned out. I think that's a sign.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Nope. Okay.
Well, I studied psychology. I have a master's in psychology, and then fell into real estate. So I kind of use psychology all the time, but real estate is a little bit of everything. I do marketing, I do sales, I do psychology all the time. But I mean, I thought I was going to be like a therapist or whatever. And then I'm in the business world. So everybody switches around, right?
And our interests change too sometimes. Like it's really hard to stay stagnant from when you're 18 to when you're 50.
Yeah. I also think it's a good point that you make. It's like sometimes people will say, especially older generations, sometimes will say like, you know, your parents or something like, oh, you studied this and now you're doing that. Like it just seems to them like it's illogical, but like I feel like everything in your life you can apply. Like obviously psychology, I would say, is probably one of the best things that you could apply across the board if you're dealing with other humans, which is pretty much in every career. And communications, I feel like that master's was very valuable and continues to be valuable for me. So it's kind of all leads up to the journey, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. All of Nora's exes have ended up with partners who were seemingly totally different from them. Nora and Charlie, however, are two peas in a pod. Do your favorite fictional couples tend to fall in one category or the other? And what do you feel the same about real life relationships? Anybody? Do you like couples that are similar, or do you like opposites attract?
I like opposites attract. I think it's more interesting to kind of understand what brings those people together and what keeps them together. You know, when they're the same type of personality or the same type of passions and likes, you can understand, okay, they have these shared interests. But when people are different and they complement each other in not such obvious ways, I think that's really fascinating.
Anybody else? Do you think it's better like that in real life too, or just fictional characters to read?
I think in my own personal life, I think that would make it more interesting. If somebody that I was partners with was a replica of me, I think that would get a little boring.
Yeah. Anyone else?
But I think literary wise, like reading it, I think especially like in this case, it was nice to see a lot of sameness because she couldn't find anybody that understood her. So like when you're reading, like, I don't know if it's as practical in real life, although I feel like a lot of people who have similar interests and similar likes and dislikes will gravitate towards each other, but generally have something that's different, right? Something that's opposite, that makes it interesting. But for the story itself, I think it worked because she needed someone to understand her. She was so different than every typical Hallmark character, right? So to speak, that she needed someone who understood her. And I feel like that this fit the bill
Charlie fit the bill for her. So.
Like he understood her a lot, like career wise, but I feel like they also had a lot of differences because he was very confident and charming, where she kind of like seemed to question herself at times. And he was more, I don't want to say like dominant, but like the stronger one in the relationship. Like he pursued more than she did, even though she was like so in love with him. I feel like she held back a little. Anybody else? Nope. As Libby and Nora grow, they have to accept that life is carrying them in different directions. Have you ever been through something like that with a friend or family member? And also like towards the book, like what did you feel about Libby trying to keep things the same? I mean, Nora trying to keep things the same and Libby trying to like split up.
I think it's a very realistic situation. I mean, I've definitely experienced it with friends, especially now. I mean, I have a small child and I have a lot of really good friends that don't have kids. And I feel like that's been the biggest kind of like disruption, I would say, within the last couple of years, that you've really seen where like just different kind of priorities are. And I think sometimes too with, I didn't like that she was trying to keep everything like the same, like she, everything was like she wanted to go back to New York. And like, I guess maybe because I have a small kid, I'm like, I understand she needs a big house. She needs more space. Like New York is not a place to raise a child. Let her be, so I don't know. I feel like I sympathize more with her sister at that point.
I appreciated that Libby like pushed her to like she was always trying to take care of everyone. Her sister, her brother-in-law, the nieces, like she was trying to care of everyone. And Libby's like, you don't have to, like, you need to live your life too. Like, I appreciate everything you did, but like, go be yourself too. And like, I was finally, she had other people looking out for her instead of vice versa.
I have to be honest, I felt very like I felt the pain of the transition into the country, because I myself love the city and cannot imagine living in the country, because I would find it very, I don't know, boring. I wouldn't have access to cultural things. And even though in the little town, clearly they do have access to those things, but in my mind, I know it's silly, but I think, oh my God, if it's not in a city, I think I would wither away and die. And so I felt that come through, from her in the book. And then when they end up in the city, I thought, oh my God, she didn't have to compromise. That is amazing. I love the fact that she could still have her city access.
Anyone else?
I think that's just the struggle of being an adult. Life starts pulling you away from people physically, pulling you away because you're moving or you have children or you get a job or, you get married. And I have 3 brothers and we're very, very close. And I could relate a lot to the pain, not necessarily wanting things to stay the same, but my brothers and I, we've always been very close, but for the last 20 years, we haven't lived in the same city. So it's kind of realizing that you have to find other ways to stay connected to people, even if, the day-to-day life is changing and you probably don't have enough time to spend together, or you don't like doing the same things anymore. It definitely changes the way we connect to family, I think, in this case, and not necessarily for the worse. It's just a different kind of, I think adulthood is finding that connection, that way of connecting beyond. Because if you think, you go back and think of like your friends when you were younger, it was just people that you were spending a lot of time with, people you saw every day, people that you were, going to school with or hanging out with every week. And then as you start growing older, those kind of spaces disappear. So you have to find a way to connect with people beyond day to day.
What else? I felt Nora's pain. I feel like I relate to her because I'm the one in the friend group that's still single and doesn't have kids. So I'm the one that's like, when are we going to see each other? And everyone now has new additional circle of friends and things in that I'm the one that's always like, we've been trying to plan dinner for 3 months now, or it's been 8 months. Like, it cannot be this hard to get together. And with family too, like, you don't realize when things change. Like, my family had a Thanksgiving tradition for years with my uncle's side of the family until all his kids started getting married. And now I'm like, I don't remember when the last time we did Thanksgiving with that side. Now it's like at my brother's house, and you don't realize living life, like, when is the last time that you're gonna keep your like little traditions? Things just kind of change. So I felt Nora's struggle for like keeping everything together.
Yeah, and I think it's hard. I think as you get older, you have to be so intentional, like so that you don't lose things like that. There are when life pulls you in different directions, like it's just that much harder to stay connected to people. And like you have to be so intentional, like with your time and just really, really make an effort rather than like what Veronica said, when you're little, like when you're young, you're just around people just naturally. And that's why I think it's so hard to keep and make friends when you're an adult. Like it's hard.
Yeah. I'm always like, I don't want to meet new people. I mean, I do. I mean, I really enjoy this book club, but I'm like, it's hard enough trying to keep tabs with the people I've had in my life for 20 years. It's hard to add more people to keep tabs with.
Yeah, I had a conversation with a coworker today where he was saying his wife wants him to be more involved with like the class dads. And he's like, I don't give enough attention to the people I've known my entire life, and you want me to like add more people. So it's like a quality. I think we focus on quality, not quantity as we get older. But it's hard because you don't like, you also want to be part of the class dads.
Okay, would you rather spend a month in Sunshine Falls or in Nora's New York life, and why?
I'm a suburb girl, so I would prefer a month. I would prefer Sunshine Falls, although that's a little remote for me.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Sunshine Falls too, but just because I live in the city, right? So I would like that different change of pace, that smaller town feel, and then I could decide if I want to live there or not, right? But as far as I know, I'm a city girl at the moment.
Yeah.
I think I would move to Sunshine Falls. That's the pandemic effect on me. I've always lived in a big city, always, all my life. And now, after COVID, I was like, what am I doing here? No, I think I'm waiting to move to a small town and meet my Hallmark man and have my homework.
Get going.
This is this is what I want to happen in my life. Maybe I'll move back to a big city or not, but I want to move to a small town, meet the owner of a bookstore, and then have my Hallmark movie. I'm ready.
If you move to a small town and this happens, you have to join us back and let us know.
Yes.
No, write a book about
it. She has to write a book that we'll be discussing. That's amazing. I would love to live in the city, like in New York. I think that's so vibrant and alive and amazing. And, maybe go to the country for a weekend, but no, if I had to make one choice, definitely city for me. Nora, New York City. Woohoo.
Yeah, I agree. I lived in New York, and I grew up there, so I've had that experience, and it's exciting. And then I went to college in a very small town, and I feel like at this stage of my life, maybe neither extreme, maybe like somewhere in the middle would be good. And I feel like actually where I am now is kind of a cross of that, because it's a city and it has restaurants and cultural offerings, but it's definitely much slower than New York or something like that. So it's kind of like right in the middle, but I would do like a getaway to that very small town and sit at the bookstore and read a book and drink coffee. That sounds good.
I think Libby got like the best of both worlds, right? Because didn't she move to, was it Asheville? So it was like just far enough that it was a little bit of a bigger city, but she still got to go to Sunshine Falls. I think I like that sort of balance. I don't think I could do either extreme. Like I like going to New York for like 24 hours and then that's it. So I feel like I get a lot of nervous energy there, and I feel like I always get sick there too. So but I like it in short little bursts. But I don't know if I could do so remote for a long time either.
Yeah, I need like access to Target and Nordstrom. Like I went to school in Gainesville, and I used to complain that there's like one Target, and down here you could go to like 3 in the same like 15-minute radius.
Yeah.
But yeah, same. Like I do love visiting Manhattan, but I would never live there. Like I don't want to live that life with like I like having a washer dryer in my house and a car and free refills at restaurants.
I had a dream of living in New York and working at a women's magazine there when I was younger. And I think it was like in my early 20s, I went for a friend's bachelorette party and I stayed extra with a friend that lived there. And he was like, pretend you live here. And the first day at the end of the day, I was having like a panic attack. I was like, I could never live here. There's
They,
people
like-
in my face all day long. And he was like, okay, I'm going to show you where the tourists don't go. So you can see
Yeah,
what
that's
real life
true.
in New York is like. Like, don't go to Times Square.
But I
But-
always think like shows and books, like they glamorize this like professional life, like all the shows about law firms and stuff. And like, I'm not a lawyer, but I'm an accountant. Tax season is the most unglamorous thing in the world. Like sitting at my desk until late at night, unable to get a manicure, like making sure I have clean clothes is like very difficult. Like that's why I think we grow up with this like idolization of like, oh, let me go to the big city and work in Manhattan. And it's like a rough life. It's like a struggle. To me, what I've seen is like it's like a struggle to get from point A to point B and like get around people. And it's just not for me personally.
I would definitely pick Sunshine Falls. In my head, my retirement plan is to own a bookstore someday. I don't know how it's gonna happen.
I love little independent bookstores.
But I want like a little tiny place that has
Down
like
with it.
little events at night. Not competing with Barnes and Noble, like a little tiny place. So I would definitely pick Sunshine Falls as long as I have access to a city and it's not too remote.
I agree. I would do Sunshine Falls. It seems a little bit remote to me, but I did live in New York City when I went to school. I got my master's there and I absolutely loved it. I thought I was in Sex and the City. Like it was great, but I can't with kids and stuff. I'm like, no, I'm happy to be, I'd rather than be in a little small town, and we visit New York in little bursts. But the Sunshine Falls, it just sounded like a super small town, like really, really small town. And that's kind of unique. I think that would be cool.
I love the camaraderie. Like everyone knew each other, sort of. Like it reminded me of that show Virgin River.
Yeah, I was gonna say that too. And I watched Sweet Magnolias. And it's like that type of little town, which it seems like. I like that idea of like, you know, your neighbors, and I don't know, it seems nice.
And those are small towns that still have cultural sides to them. They're not like so remote.
If Amazon Prime can get there, I'm fine.
Have you ever felt like different places brought out different parts of you? Kind of like Sunshine Falls brings a different side of Nora.
Yes. I feel like when I go back home to New York, like that energy that you spoke about, it doesn't make me nervous. It kind of like exhilarates me. And I feel like New York is probably one of the only places I've personally ever been to where you could walk the streets by yourself, grab a cup of coffee by yourself, you know, go get a glass of wine by yourself, and you don't really feel alone because there's always so much going on. And people, as much as they say New Yorkers are unfriendly, I disagree with that. I think New Yorkers tend to be constantly on the go, so they don't stop to do stuff. But once they do stop, they're eager to connect. Whereas when I lived in Miami, or the years I've been in Miami, I think sometimes Miami is a place that's a little bit harder to make friends because people have their insular groups. So it's hard sometimes to like, you know, get into those groups. Whereas in New York, people are like everywhere. They live in one place, they work in another, you know, they're taking the train. So it's like they're part of all these different circles that they're eager to let people in. So I feel like, yeah, it just brings out, like, I just feel like a different person when I'm there, more energized, more like, I don't know, just it's edgier there, I guess.
Great. So now you make me want to go to New York for the weekend.
Oh,
The weekend
I
is
want to go
good.
now.
no,
Well,
listen, you can literally go by yourself and you would have
Absolutely.
a blast because it's just that kind of
sure.
place. I mean, it really is.
And I
Yeah.
agree. In my experience, my brother lived there for like 15 years. So I've gone a lot. I don't feel like people are rude there. I feel like people in Miami are more rude than in New York. I feel like it's just like you said, it's just people know where they're going. They have somewhere to be and they just don't have time. That's what
Listen,
it is.
no, probably one of the only places in the world where you could probably stand naked in the street and nobody would even blink.
Yeah.
Think about it. They would just keep going, like probably maybe look quickly and then just keep on their merry way because they've seen it all, right? There's like so many different things that happen there. Just like if you take a subway ride alone and they don't have time. They're just like,
Yeah.
okay, you're naked, great, bye. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
To go back to your question, Michelle, though, I feel like absolutely the answer is yes, because every time I go on vacation, no matter where it is, I could see myself living there. And I could see myself like just a different part of you comes out. You know, if it's a beach thing, then you could totally relax. I can totally relax and I can be laid back. Or if I'm going to like a big city, I can go and go from one activity to the next. And I guess it's just a fantasy thing, or which is I guess why I like books so much. But anywhere I go, I feel like a different part of me comes out, right? So
I agree with you. I learned that travel writing, and since a lot of the trips I would either take by myself or you were like grouped with other journalists, so you were technically with strangers. And I would do things that my friends would be like, you would never do that in Miami. I'm like, because why would I do this in Miami? Like here, I would love it. I would hike if I lived here all the time, or like, I like we were like in a
But
small
we
little,
don't hike in Miami.
yeah, no, like little chalet in Scotland, like in the forest. And my friends were like, this is a murder mystery waiting to happen. Why are you there by yourself? And I'm like, this is beautiful. We need to come for a girls' weekend. Like, I totally agree. Like, different sides come out in different places. And plus, if you're on vacation, it's
I
almost
mean,
like your
I
responsibility.
always say like, yeah, I'm my best self on vacation. Unfortunately, I got to work on making myself my best self here.
Okay, one of Nora's biggest struggles is finding the balance of how much to compromise in her life for those she loves. What role do you think compromise plays in love? And to you, what is uncompromisable? It's a big one. Christy, you're quiet today. I'm gonna call you out.
I can start with the uncompromisable. I think for
Oh.
me, a deal breaker would be a partner that would not allow for my growth. You know, if we allow each other the space to thrive, I think there's incredible strength in that as a couple. So what is, and I do believe that in relationships, whether they be partner relationships, work relationships, friendships, children relationships, I do believe that compromise plays a part because we're not always right, we're not perfect. And, you know, when you care, whether it be for, you know, friends, when you love your partner, but when you care for, let's say, a work environment, sometimes you may think that you know what's best for the common good. But if the majority of the people in that group feel that another alternative is what should be pursued, for the sake of keeping peace, you make way for that, you know. So everybody has a voice at the table, I guess.
To me, uncompromisable in a relationship would be not accepting my family or friends. And I don't mean like you have to like them and like be up all in their business, but not put up a fight, because I've been in relationships where that was the case, where every time there was like a family event, it was like, oh, I don't want to go, or oh, why are your friends doing this, or oh, do I have to sit and talk to your parents? Yes, you do, because they'll be around forever. So to me, it's somebody who tries to at least be part of it or accept them.
Yeah.
Anybody
I
else?
think with all kinds of relationships, there is compromise. I feel like there's always, especially, you know, with significant others, I feel like there's like a give and take. So sometimes one person is compromising more than the other person, but I feel like it only works if it's kind of like a seesaw, like you're not the one that's compromising all the time. I feel like it has to be a give and take. And then I think something uncompromisable, I think, is just honesty. I think that's like the basis of any relationship. Like if you can't trust somebody, whether it's a friend or a family member or a significant other, I feel like there is no basis to a relationship once you've lost trust for somebody.
Anybody else? I liked how like Charlie and Nora compromised for each other. Like he tried to help her family and he was there for Libby. And he like when they did like that little tent in the back for them to experience camping, like he tried to compromise and her as well with trying to fix up the bookstore with her sister. Like they both were there for each other. Okay, next. Nora and Libby grew up together, yet they experienced their childhoods very differently. Why do you think that is? And have you ever had this happen with a family member or friend?
I mean, I'm a triplet, so my sisters and I experienced everything.
You're triplet?
Mm-hmm.
I had no idea. That's so cool.
Yeah, but I'm shocked at how different we are. Like, I don't understand because we grew up literally at the same, everything was the same, and we're very different. So,
Are you girls identical?
no, they have straight hair. I'm 5'3", one is 5'9". We all have different color eyes. We're like very, very.
Wow.
They're on my Instagram. You can find them.
That is so cool. Do you guys have like the same interests?
No, not at all. One of my sisters, like, she is obsessed with BTS right now, and like I like Lady Gaga, but this girl was like obsessed with Lady Gaga. She hates all the music I listen to. Like my other sister, we would never, like, if we were going to the movies, we like would have no desire to see the same movie. We're very close and we hang out and we do stuff together, but we're all like very, very, very different. Very different. Yeah. I mean, we have some similar interests, but mostly different, which is good. I think it's a good balance.
My brother and I are very different. He's the youngest, but acts like the oldest by like 10 years, and he's 2 years younger. And he like forgets childhood things. Like he'll forget birthdays or things we did. And I'm like, that was for you. How did you forget that this happened?
My brother's the same way. My brother's older, and we were just having this conversation because I was telling him about our vacation, and I was like, oh, you remember we went to, I think we were talking about Sanibel or something. I'm like, we went there when we were kids, and he was like, we did? And I was like, yes, you don't remember? And he was like, I have no recollection of this. And I'm like describing in detail this whole vacation. He was like, I have no idea.
My mom and I will like describe a birthday party. Like if my brother's planning his kids' parties, my mom will be like, oh yes, remember when you had a horse birthday at a farm? And my brother's like, I did? I'm like, I remember that. It wasn't my birthday. How do you have no recollection of this event? Anybody else?
My brothers and I, even though we're very similar and we have the same interests and we're very close in age, we have completely different recollection of the same event. So, and now that you said vacation, the other day I was talking to one of them, and I don't know why a vacation when we were children came up. And when I talked to my mom, this is like universally accepted to have been the worst occasion in the history of my family. Everything went wrong. One of my brothers got sick. Anyways, it was just a, unfortunate event after the other. And it was just horrible. And my brother was like, oh, that was a fun time. And I was like, no, it wasn't. It was horrible. Like my mom and my dad fought the whole time. Again, it was like horrible. And in his mind, this is probably like top 5 best family vacations. And the rest of us were like, no, it was horrible. And again, we were very close in age. So it's not like he was a baby. And then it's just, so to your point, I think, yeah, I mean, different people experience the same event in completely different ways.
Hi, Jen. We're almost done, but I wanted you to join us.
Hi,
forgot
I'm
that she
sorry.
just
I
messaged me.
completely forgot. I RSVP'd and everything. I had the link and I took a shower. I forgot to join.
She literally just sent me a
Hi,
message and I'm like,
everyone.
we're still on. You can come on. So
I loved it. It was a
we're
cute
talking
story.
about how Nora and Libby grew up together, but experienced their childhoods very differently. And we're talking about, has anybody had this happen with like a family member or friend?
I got you. I'm an only child.
So, no. What do you think about the book?
Yeah.
Chime in.
I loved it. It was a really cute, yeah, like Hallmark type story, but super witty. I would love like her returns and their little love, connection, like the way they talk to each other and their gander, I guess you would call it. Is that how you say it?
Banter.
Yeah, no. Banter. There you go. I know you're the writer. But I really liked it.
Okay, my last question is, what is your idea of a happy ending? And not like the perverted way. Oh, Sierra had to jump off. Michelle had to jump off. Okay, anybody have an ideal happy ending? What did you think of the way this book ended?
I like the way it ended. Of course, it's a book, so it's, you know, different stories have different ways of ending. And I'm not a fan of when the ending kind of perfectly makes everything fit and resolves everything. It just feels like that's not how life works. So I'm not a fan when everything is perfect. To me, an ideal, like, happy ending is when there is no misunderstandings. You know how there's always a little bit of tension because someone doesn't know something else about someone else, and so they think the reason why they're doing something is something else. To me, a happy ending is when everything is out in the open, even if that doesn't mean that everyone ends up being happy, but there's no unknown, you know, like hidden or like secrets. That's a good happy ending for me.
Anybody else? Just
I
make
like
me
the end. Oh, sorry.
go
Go
ahead,
ahead.
go ahead. No, go.
I like the ending. I know that it was a little bit cliche-ish in the way that it wrapped up, but at a deeper level, I thought it was really nice that she finally found someone who could comfort her at her deepest level, and that, you know, she felt that that was her handicap, and he thought it was one of her biggest virtues. And so I thought, good for you to find someone that you could trust, that knows better than to believe your version of yourself. And I don't know, I thought it was cool that he saw beyond what she presented and really loved her for who she was. I thought she deserved it.
What did you all think about, I know I said that was my last question, but Veronica talking reminded me of this, of Nora going back to her original passion for editing and how he like pushed her towards it.
I liked
I
it.
thought
She
that,
finally did
yeah.
something for herself at the end, which was great.
Yeah, I liked it too. You know, follow your passions, and if you have somebody that cheers you on, even if you fail, right? But you get it out of your system, you tried it, and then that'll lead you to the next step. That'll lead you to your next level.
Yeah.
I thought that was
And
nice.
I love the fact that he did it despite the fact that that meant she was definitely going to stay in the city, right? Like, no, if she got that job, there was, you know, her dream job, there was absolutely no way. And I love that. I love that because I think sometimes when you love someone or they love you, like, it's really more about ensuring that that person's being their like best self and they can be self-realized, and it may be with you or not, and that hurts, but I think that that's so beautiful.
Yeah, the most unselfish act. That was great. That was really nice.
And the fact that he vacated the position that she took, right? That was also like, oh, I don't know. Do I love someone that much that I would give him my passion job? Wow, that's pretty that's pretty intense.
But he also had to
I
let
didn't
go
think
of
it was gonna end like that.
Yeah. I'm sorry?
I didn't think it was gonna end like that. I thought she was like gonna give up on New York and like come run the bookstore with him and do editing like from there or something like that.
So
And when
did
she
I.
went back, I was like, this is how it's gonna end. This is it. Like, the sister's gonna stay. And then when he come, I was like, oh, that's so sweet of the family to do the whole intervention. That was really cute.
So did I, since the writer was sort of being kind of like anti-trope. I thought the same thing when she went back to New York. I was like, that's it. They're not going to stay together. I thought the same thing, that if they stayed together, she would end up doing it remote from the bookstore.
Yeah.
I like that they ended up together because I when she went back to New York, I was like the same. I was like, is it gonna end like this? And I was like, I need them to end up together, just because for the purpose of this particular story, I think it needed that kind of ending. So I like that she almost made you believe that it wasn't gonna happen, but at the end she sort of wrapped it up, not completely in a perfect bow, but it was like the ending that, you know, we wanted. But I feel like for this type of story, you know, you want them to end up together at the end.
I like how she like didn't believe in herself as much as she could do the editing job, and she was kind of like questioning it, and he like pushed her and made her do it, and it was like her calling, sort of.
Yeah.
I owe this book club to my boyfriend in a way. I was relaunching this website. I had Bella Vida like 9 years ago before I started travel writing, and it died out because I didn't have the time for it. And I did it for about 7 years before it died out. And he kept telling me to do it again and bring it back for like a year before the pandemic hit. And then the pandemic hit and I was like, okay, let's do it. We were kind of planning it before, but I was like, it looks so cheesy, but he's a web designer. So he's like, I'll help you make it look not cheesy, because I had done it myself before. And then people kept messaging me, asking me for like book suggestions, because I would always be putting things on Instagram. And he was the one that was like, why don't you do a book club? And I'm like, who's going to join the book club? I already have one with my friends. And he was like, I don't know, just post it on there. Maybe people will do it. So we can thank him for the book club.
I love it. Are you are a lot of people going tomorrow?
I think we have like about 8 or so that have responded. Some people haven't responded, but said they're coming. So there's no agenda. It's just for everybody to chat and get to know each other.
It's a cute spot. I love books and
I
books.
believe, Iana, you're coming, right? Are you still coming?
I really am going to try. I have a Zoom work meeting that starts at 6, and I'm hoping it'll end by 7. If it does, then I'll hop on over.
You can, even if you're late, come on over.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna try. I'm gonna see if my best friend can babysit.
And Melissa, I'm
Haven't
sorry
asked her
we had to cancel. I know you were trying to make it while you were in Miami.
No
But
worries. Hopefully
COVID struck again.
never fails. Hopefully we can plan one. You know, it's the first of many. So
Yes, hopefully. Okay, that's it for book lovers. We've shared our next book prior, so if anybody's missed it, Veronica, maybe you haven't seen it. Our next book is Our Last Days in Barcelona by Chanel Clayton. She's also not joining us because she is on deadline for another book, but she's joined us before, and we are fans of Chanel. I already read it. I got an advance copy, and it was amazing. I know a few of you have already read it, right? And
it's my favorite one, I think.
Me too.
Her first one is my favorite. Last Train to Key West was my second, but this has moved up to the second.
Which was her first one?
Next Year in Havana.
Oh, yeah.
Have you read that one?
Yeah, I did. I did with the other book club. I think I like this one better. I love the ending. I loved it.
Yeah. Oh, I was bawling.
Don't talk about it
I
yet.
was crying.
I don't say anything. I haven't
Don't
read
say
it. Don't say
anything.
anything.
I'm not saying anything.
Do you have a date, Michelle, for the September?
Like
session?
mid-September. Is there a date you can come before I schedule it?
No, not off the top of my head right now. Just
I'm
wanted
thinking
to.
like mid-September, but like probably before the 15th.
Okay.
And if any of you have read her books before, you see all three sisters again. So it's a little nice reunion. So it's a good book.
So since you had her in book club before, is she Cuban?
She is. She sounds American, but she is Cuban. Her grandfather is from Cuba.
Okay.
And I believe her dad as well.
What was the book she came for? Most Beautiful Girl in Cuba?
And
is that the one she came for?
She came for that one, and she came for Next Year in Havana last year.
Where is she based?
Not Miami. I'm not really sure.
And you haven't said the November book, right? Not yet.
No, but we do have an author.
You said you have the author.
All right.
We do have an author, and she was suggested by people in our book club. I had never heard of her before. I'll share soon. So yeah, so Chanel's not coming, but we will be discussing her book. Now, anybody want to take a photo? You have your books?
Oh, I don't have it with me.
It's okay. You can just smile.
I did it on my Kindle.
Let me take this blurry thing off.
I don't know if to have it on there.
Give me a sec till I figure out how to unblur.
Christy, I miss you today. You're quiet.
Hey, do I have it here?
Sorry, I'm picking up from volleyball last minute. In the car.
Oh, Zarud is here?
Yes.
Hi.
And Jen, you're going tomorrow, right?
Me? I'm gonna try if I could get babysitting. I really want to.
Anybody else coming tomorrow that has not said? No.
I'm trying. I just don't have babysitting yet. I'm trying.
Okay. Smile.
Wait.
Oh, let me do it again. Everybody ready? 1, 2, 3. Okay. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
September.
Nice to meet everyone.
And Vero, I hope you liked it. Welcome to the first one. Hope you come back.
Thank you for having me.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.